This build idea is a Holy Relic of Conviction Necromancer, but with Power Siphon as the triggering attack and some unconventional critical strike scaling. This video is a short discussion on what has worked and what has failed so far. All of the footage you're watching is only done on a 4-link, but granted that is a 4-link fleshcrafted chess piece. I'm a simple man who likes explosions, herald effects, shatter sounds, and animations and visual effects that show mobs in PoE dying. That's something that I've always found to be pretty lacking or difficult to get for minion builds in particular in Path of Exile. So for this build I have combined a couple of off-meta ideas to get some more cosmetic effects while also adding damage scaling for the Holy Relics. I'm using a ranged attack to trigger the Holy Relic Nova because the transfigured version of the gem procs the Relic's Nova on a random mob whenever you hit with an attack. I've chosen Power Siphon as the attack for 3 reasons. The first is pretty simple. I'm really lazy and I like one-button builds, but I don't like aiming, especially not on each individual pack. And with Power Siphon, I don't have to aim. Lancing Steel of spraying is probably the optimal choice here as the attack to trigger the Nova, but it requires that I manually target or at least get the right direction and facing. It also has quite a lengthy animation time, which I don't like. The second reason is that Power Siphon is pretty. It adds the cosmetic effect to mobs dying, the little blue swirly that goes up, which for a minion build is nice. I like that. I like seeing some kind of cosmetic or visual effect that occurs when mobs die, so I know what's dying around me. And the third reason is because Power Siphon gives me power charges, which increases my main hand critical strike chance, which I use for Destructive Link to scale the crit chance on my Holy Relics. The reason I've chosen crit scaling here is because the Relics can't scale damage via the normal conventional route, at least they don't do it very well, because they aren't affected by attack or cast speed. That's because the Nova is a physical spell that's triggered with a cooldown. For my crit scaling, I'm using Destructive Link. I'm spending effectively 4 points on the tree to get 2 power charges that I passed already, which along with the normal maximum of 3 takes me to a total of 5, which gives me 250% increased global crit chance. I have a wand with a 9% crit base, and for now at least I'm also wearing Ungul's Harmony. Add in a Diamond Flask with 100% crit chance and Spirit Offering affecting me at 50% value from my Necromancer Ascendancy node, and all told I am sitting at just over 85% crit chance with Destructive Link. Ideally, and eventually hopefully, I'll be dropping Ungul's Harmony and then replacing the crit that the necklace grants with crit from 1 or 2 Tecrod's Gaze jewels, which can give me 200% increased crit for a couple of jewel sockets. And then I would eventually be looking at a higher base crit wand to work towards 100% crit chance. I'm not entirely sure if 100% crit chance is required because Destructive Link gives my linked targets the same critical strike chance as my main-handed default attack weapon. And like I said, that's 85% at the moment. There are a couple of points on the tree that I have taken that increase my link effect by 15%, but I'm not sure if that would be 15% of the total crit chance I give my link targets, or if it's only 15% increased crit multi that the link also grants. I'm not really sure how that works. I haven't been able to look at it or test it in Path of Building. If anyone knows, I would love to get a confirmation on how that works in the comments. I have tried using various link skills before in previous leagues, but I always hated them. But Destructive Link on this build has actually felt pretty good, and that's because the Holy Relics always stay by my side. That means 2 things. I never have to worry about them running away or being separated from my character, which if that happens for long enough, the link effect breaks and I die. So I don't have to worry about that ever, but I also don't really have to target the link. Now, I think a lot of people would agree that the worst part of the link skills themselves is actually targeting when using them, is selecting the target of your link. But because my Holy Relics are always right on top of my character, I don't have to worry about that. I just press my Destructive Link, with my mouse somewhere generally around my character, which is pretty much how I always play anyway, and the link will automatically target my relics. The other hurdle to using links on minions is that the minions really have to stay alive, because if they die, you die. At least so far, I haven't found that to be a problem at all. I only have 110% increased minion life in total on my character, which isn't a whole lot. I also haven't even bothered capping my minion resistances at the moment or giving them any other kind of defensive scaling or mechanics, but they are surprisingly tanky. They haven't died at all during the campaign, and in early mapping their survivability still isn't an issue. That is because, again, they always stay by me, so all of the mechanics that I dodge, they also dodge. They are also flying, which means they avoid all ground mechanics. So they don't get affected by shocked ground, they don't get or take any damage from burning ground and things like that. They also generally aren't targeted that often, again also because they're flying and by me. Generally I'm the one that's getting targeted, or my character is. Destructive Link is also a good excuse for me to not have to worry about Animate Guardian or Spectres. Both of those things are likely optimal for this kind of build, or pretty much all minion builds in general, which is also kind of why I dislike them. I dislike having to worry about keeping my Animate Guardian alive and gearing them up all the time for every minion build. And I dislike a lot of the kind of visual clutter and sound effects that come with Spectres. So being able to pick something like Destructive Link and then ignore all of those kind of aspects of minion builds is a big win for me, although, like I said, it might not be optimal. As for what's worked with this build, first and foremost, the damage is insane. For my level of gear and the poor level of my build creating abilities, yeah, the damage is kind of nuts. I have just finished the campaign with a level 17 Holy Relic, and I am already at over 250k DPS per minion on a 4 link. With a more optimized build, let's say a 5 link, a couple of gem levels here and there, maybe even some different gem supports, or different ways of scaling or building the minion rather than the way that I've chosen to with the damage conversion from physical to cold, I would say this build could quite comfortably hit over 1 million DPS on day one just as you're getting into maps. It's probably a great league starter for that reason, and I think it also has quite good or interesting avenues for scaling in the end game. The playstyle itself is also pretty fantastic. It doesn't play like a minion build, even though it technically is. It plays like a wander. I like it because I don't have to aim at all. And when I first started theorizing this build, I assumed that I would have to press my Destructive Link pretty often, which could get a little annoying. What I have found though is that my damage is so obscene and my clear is so great, particularly through the campaign and like early maps, especially if I had built this character a little bit better, that I don't need Destructive Link outside of bosses. Probably don't even need Destructive Link in maps at all. If this character was geared a little bit better and played a little bit better, let's say I wasn't on a 4 link and I didn't build around Triad's Grip and Fleshcrafter just because I dropped them in SSF and instead built around like just a generally better minion build. Yeah, the amount of damage it's crazy. You just don't have to worry about pressing your links at all unless you really want to juice damage. And that has been nice. The clear speed and especially the mechanics also feels pretty good. I just press Power Siphon, I don't have to aim it. At the moment I'm using Power Siphon in a 4 link with Barrage, Chain and Returning Proj. I also wanted to say in this what has worked well section is that Meat Shield as the support gem has also been really good. It is 30% more damage on close range targets, less damage taken from the Holy Relic minions, and it has effectively no downside. Your minions being defensive doesn't matter because you're not reliant on their AI to do damage, but the 20% chance to taunt doesn't work, but that's also not really a problem. As to what has failed so far, or at least as to what I'll be trying to improve or do better when I work on the version 2 and remake this build, I think going Necromancer and using Spirit Offering as my main offering was a big mistake. The usual defensive setup of Necromancers with Bone Offering is gone with this crit-based setup. So no block and no minion army, reducing my physical damage taken with the Necro Ascendancy node as well, the new one. Bone Barrier means that I have picked Necro, but really gotten nothing from it other than, let's say, 10% more minion damage. I've also found the Leech to be a little lackluster. I think if I was willing to invest into the Leech Mastery to get 10% of Leeches instant, that would probably be a big bonus. But I would also prefer to just not go Necromancer and build around an Ascendancy that's just significantly better defensively. I think if you're not playing Bone Offering and getting your block from Mistress of Sacrifice, playing Necro is just, it's a bit lacking. It's a bit of a bait, I think. So defensives at the moment suck. I have effectively made a Necromancer at the top part of the tree with pretty much no defensive layers. I've taken Petrified Blood with EB Mom. That was mostly to solve the mana problems of using 2 or actually 3 links out at any one time, which have quite a significant mana cost, along with attacking with Power Siphon, with Chain and Barrage that I think are both 150% multiplier supports. Means that, yeah, I was quite easily spending like 200 mana a second while leveling before I went EB Mom. But that is something that I would like to solve in a different way in the next version. Out of all of the link nodes, because in this build I really want at least 1 link mastery for the link skills linked to 1 additional random target. At the moment I've chosen the Empowered Bond Wheel up near the Hierophant area or the Templar area. I'm not sure if the buff effect works on the base crit chance that I'm granting my minions. So this whole wheel seems a little terrible. So in the future, I don't think I'll be going for that wheel, and I will instead be taking a wheel over near Divine Shield that gives me at least link skill effect duration, which is kind of nice. Or ideally, actually the one near Ascendant on the right-hand shadow part of the tree, which gives me defensives and movement speed and reduces the mana cost of my links by 20%. And I think with a couple of extra points here and there, like maybe Dreamer to get my RMR Reservation Mastery on the mana wheel, I think I could solve my mana issues without having to go EB Mom. I also built this character around Triad's Grip and Fleshcrafter, really just because I had them in SSF, but I don't think they are particularly good or optimal. I wasn't quite sure at the time. I saw these uniques and thought, you know, that's a lot of damage. I could convert, I can run Hatred, I can have the 3 green Triad's Grips, which are pretty easy to get with the Benchcraft. It only costs 120 chromes. The 4 green, on the other hand, is kind of out of the realm of possibility for SSF. You're looking at well over 1,000 chromatics to try and hit that. But the 3 green allowed me to convert to cold, which I thought, you know, that'll be fantastic extra damage. It also gave me a 4 link to put my Power Siphon in. So it gave me the 1 blue socket with the 3 green to get the returning Proj, Chain, Pierce, Barrage, whatever setup you wanted to go with. So that felt pretty good. But after playing the build to max at least 1 time, I am reevaluating how I'm going to be looking at building this in the next version, and that is that I don't think I need damage really at all. Like making sacrifices in the build, like a chest piece and glove slot item that give nothing defensively but add a little bit of damage to my minions. I don't think that's the play with the Holy Relic of Conviction. They do so much damage already that I'm going to be looking at effectively a full defensive setup and just not have to worry about damage at all. And that's what's next. It'll be a version 2 attempt at this kind of Power Siphon, Holy Relic of Conviction, destructive link idea. I'll most likely be dropping Necro and going with a different Ascendancy and building with much more emphasis on defense, probably some more AoE if I can get it somewhere or figure out how to get it, and maybe even explosion mechanic to help with clear. If you've made it this far, thank you for watching, and algorithm stuff.